Get ready to embark on a fascinating intellectual and spiritual journey where the boundaries of faith and science blend in intriguing ways. We'll delve into the depths of miracles and the distortion of reality, deeply questioning the role of gravity in the Bible and how it might relate to events that defy our logic. Can science, with its precise equations and empirical observations, truly unravel what we consider supernatural? Or does it, in fact, offer us a fascinating, amplified lens through which to contemplate the immense complexity and unfathomable power of the Creator, without ever diminishing God's majesty and sovereignty? Keep your mind open and your heart curious as we explore the fascinating, sometimes paradoxical coexistence between the natural and the divine, inviting us to expand our understanding of what is truly possible in God's vast universe. The biblical narrative of creation, described with poetic grandeur in the book of Genesis, serves as the essential starting point for understanding how science can be viewed not as a rival discipline to faith, but rather as a glorious extension of divine power and intelligence. When the Bible describes God commanding existence with a simple, "Let there be light," or separating the waters to form the firmament, it is, in essence, narrating the primordial moment when the Creator established the fundamental principles that govern the cosmos. The natural laws that operate our universe, from the complex subatomic interactions of quantum physics to the grand forces that shape entire galaxies into magnificent spiral patterns, are, from this perspective, the unmistakable signature of a Creator who infused order, structure, and intelligibility into every fiber of reality, allowing the universe to function in a consistent and predictable manner. Science, by unraveling these laws, is therefore merely mapping the mind and design of the divine lawgiver. Gravity, in particular, emerges as one of the most essential, omnipresent, and, paradoxically, mysterious forces shaping our universe. It's not merely the force that keeps us grounded, it's the invisible architect that clumps cosmic dust into massive stars, organizes these stars into vast elliptical and spiral galaxies, and ultimately sustains the precise orbit of planets like ours around their stars, allowing for the ideal conditions for the emergence and sustenance of life. We could see it as one of creation's invisible pillars, a tangible manifestation of God's power and providence that underpins the very fabric of space-time and matter. Its millimeter precision, which allows for the formation of complex ecosystems, the biodiversity we observe, and the evolution of species, suggests intentional design and a creative mind behind its existence. Great scientific minds, from Isaac Newton, who mathematically described it, to Albert Einstein, who reinterpreted it as a curvature of spacetime, dedicated their lives to understanding its origins and workings, but the mere existence of gravity itself, with its consistency and fundamental nature, is an eloquent testament to the divine order that permeates every corner of the universe. It's crucial to acknowledge that the Bible, being a book of divine revelation rather than a scientific treatise, does not employ scientific terms in their modern sense. Nevertheless, it describes events and processes that, while poetic and theological, presuppose an underlying natural order and a universe governed by principles. The regularity of day and night, the predictable succession of seasons, the cycle of rain and harvests, all point to consistent laws established by God from the beginning of time. Divine creation is not portrayed as primordial chaos or unpredictability, but as a systematic universe where physics, chemistry, and biology operate under consistent and reproducible principles. Thus, science, by unraveling the secrets of gravity and other fundamental laws, is, in fact, discovering the complex, beautiful, and ingenious rules of the game that God established for the functioning of the cosmos. This perspective not only deeply harmonizes faith and science but elevates science to a powerful and essential tool for appreciating the unattainable mind of the Creator, revealing His glory in every particle, every force, and every dimension that comprises the vast tapestry of existence. Many of the vivid and impressive miracles described in the Holy Scripture seem to openly defy the natural laws we know and operate with daily, particularly the omnipresent gravity. How, then, can we, human beings of a scientific age, reconcile these extraordinary events with our rational and scientific understanding of the universe? Consider the dramatic and iconic parting of the Red Sea, which allowed the dry passage of the Israelites fleeing Egyptian persecution, or the equally astonishing image of Jesus Christ walking on the turbulent waters of the Sea of Galilee. Can science, with its analytical tools and empirical methods, truly offer plausible explanations that, in some way, engage with these extraordinary events without, however, diminishing or nullifying the powerful and central divine action that renders them miraculous in faith? In the case of the Red Sea, for instance, although faith unequivocally attributes it to God's direct and powerful intervention, some scientific theories attempt to find explanations in extremely rare and specific natural phenomena. Geological and meteorological hypotheses suggest that strong and persistent winds, blowing from a specific direction for a prolonged period, combined with peculiar underwater topographic features and shallow waters, could have temporarily pushed and held the water back from a specific area, creating a dry and passable path. In this highly specific scenario, gravity, of course, would still be at play, exerting its influence on the water and land, but in conjunction with other natural factors, such as intense wind pressure on the water's surface and the peculiarities of the seabed, all under an absolutely perfect and divinely orchestrated synchronization for the precise moment of the Israelites' crossing. This would not be an annulment of gravity, but rather a manipulation or convergence of existing natural forces for a specific purpose. Jesus' walk on water, on the other hand, presents a much more direct and profound challenge to the law of gravity and our understanding of hydrostatics. Elementary physics teaches us, unequivocally, that the density of the human body is substantially greater than that of water, inevitably causing it to sink, and therefore making it impossible to float, much less take firm and conscious steps on the surface, without any external support or vessel. While faith unhesitatingly attributes it to direct divine intervention and Jesus' inherent authority over all creation, science, in its quest for rational explanations, could speculate about extremely rare, unknown natural phenomena, or even the existence of states of matter and energy that we do not yet comprehend. Could we imagine, purely for speculative purposes, that the water, under certain very specific conditions of temperature and mineral composition, formed a thin layer of almost invisible submerged ice, or that the water's surface tension was extraordinarily increased in a localized manner? Such hypotheses are, admittedly, highly speculative, lack any empirical evidence, and divine action, in this case, would lie in the miraculous orchestration of such improbable conditions or, more plausibly, in the temporary and localized suspension of gravity's usual action by a power that completely transcends it. Nevertheless, it is crucial to emphasize that, even with all these attempts at rationalization or searches for underlying natural substrata, God's action is and remains central and undeniable in all these biblical miracles. A scientific explanation, if it can even be fully called that, merely serves to illustrate how God can operate in ways that interact with, or even transcend, the natural laws he himself established. It's not about viewing miracles as mere opportunistic scientific coincidences that happen to benefit a people, rather, they are extraordinary events that, while they may have a natural substratum, like the winds at the Red Sea, are divinely orchestrated in their precise timing, profound purpose, and transformative impact. Science can strive to describe how these phenomena occurred in terms of their physical manifestations, but the who initiated them, the why they happened, and the power behind them belong exclusively to the realm of faith, and these miracles continue to point to a power that transcends our usual understanding of reality and its unalterable laws, including gravity. The natural laws that govern our universe, including the omnipresent and fundamental gravity, are often perceived as immutable, independent, and self-existing principles that operate autonomously. However, from a profound and inspiring theological perspective, they reveal themselves as a direct and majestic reflection of God's divine power, manifesting his intrinsic order, his impeccable logic, and his unfathomable intelligence that permeates all creation. The very existence of gravity, that invisible yet powerful force that prevents everything from floating uncontrollably into outer space and that keeps our feet firmly planted on the ground, is a primary example of this divinely established order. It is not an arbitrary or accidentally arising force. Its precise strength and unwavering constancy are crucial for the stability of the universe, for the formation of colossal cosmic structures, and, critically, for the existence and sustenance of life as we know it on our planet. Gravity is universally recognized by the scientific community as one of the four fundamental forces governing the universe, and its precision is absolutely vital for the formation of stars, for the cohesion of planets into stable solar systems, and, ultimately, for the very emergence and sustenance of complex life forms. Small variations in its gravitational constant, for instance, an infinitesimal increase or decrease that would alter its value, could lead to cataclysmic scenarios. A universe completely devoid of complex structures, where galaxies and stars would never form, or, alternatively, an immediate cosmic collapse of all matter. This fine-tuning of the universe, especially of gravity, with its constants precisely adjusted, is one of the most potent cosmological arguments for the existence of an intelligent designer, a cosmic watchmaker, who, with infinite purpose and wisdom, established the precise rules and conditions for life to flourish and develop. It is fundamental to understand that science, in unraveling the complex mechanisms of gravity and other natural laws, such as the electromagnetic force or the nuclear forces, in no way diminishes divine control over miracles. On the contrary, it actually highlights and amplifies the complexity, intelligence, and power of the being who created and continuously sustains them. If God is the supreme author of natural laws, He also holds the prerogative and inherent capacity to operate them in ways that transcend our current understanding. A miracle, from this perspective, would not be a mere irrational break of natural law, but perhaps an application of a higher law still unknown to us, or a precise and intentional manipulation of gravity or other forces in a way that we, with our limited perspective and current instruments, perceive as extraordinary, inexplicable by ordinary means, and therefore, miraculous. When the book of Isaiah, in the Old Testament, narrates the surprising and seemingly impossible event of the sun turning back 10 degrees on the sundial of Ahaz, Isaiah 38 verse 8, science, naturally, might attempt to find explanations in extremely rare astronomical phenomena, such as unusual solar eclipses, complex atmospheric refractions, or even celestial events difficult to interpret, that could create an optical illusion or a similar effect. However, what elevates this event to the status of a miracle is its perfect and unquestionable synchronicity with the divine promise made to King Hezekiah, an exact sign in time and space. Science reveals to us the instruction manual of the universe, describing each gear, each physical principle, and each interaction, but the creator of this manual has the power and sovereignty to intervene, demonstrating that his authority and control are above his own established laws. Thus, gravity and the other natural laws are not just impersonal physical phenomena, they are silent and perennial witnesses to God's infinite power, wisdom, and intelligence, inviting us to an admiration that transcends mere scientific explanation and leads us to worship. Let's delve into one of the most visually impactful miracles in the New Testament, an event that directly challenges our understanding of gravity. The vivid narrative of Peter walking on the tumultuous waters of the Sea of Galilee, as compellingly described in Matthew 14 verses 22 to 33. This event presents a direct confrontation with our understanding of physics. The laws of hydrostatics and density unequivocally teach us that the human body's density is substantially greater than that of water, making it inevitably destined to sink, and therefore, impossible to float, much less take firm and conscious steps on the surface, without any form of external support, vessel, or apparatus. For any attempt at a scientific explanation of this miracle, we would be forced to venture into the realm of the most audacious and profound speculation, considering scenarios that, currently, belong squarely in the domain of science fiction. We might speculate about a temporary and highly localized alteration of gravity at the precise point where Peter walked, or perhaps an extraordinary and localized modification in the density and physical properties of the water beneath his feet. In terms of advanced theoretical physics, one could imagine a precise control over gravitational fields, microdistortions in spacetime around Peter, or even a manipulation of subatomic particles that altered the molecular interaction of his body with the water's surface, allowing him to move upon it. However, it is vital to emphasize that these would be purely speculative hypotheses, which extrapolate far beyond our current scientific understanding and technological capabilities. Science, in its current state, simply lacks the empirical means or the established theoretical knowledge to replicate or consistently and verifiably explain such a phenomenon. Nevertheless, and this is the crucial and unshakable point of faith, regardless of any attempt at scientific explanation, no matter how ingenious, futuristic, or theoretically elegant it might be, God remains the unquestionable author of the miracle. Peter's walk on water was not an accidental event, a random anomaly, or a fortuitous coincidence. It was an intentional and deliberate act of divine power, a clear and tangible demonstration of Jesus' absolute authority over the laws of nature, and a direct invitation to Peter's faith and trust. The biblical narrative is explicit and instructive. When Peter, in a moment of doubt and distraction by the waves and the wind, took his eyes off Jesus and focused on the turbulent circumstances around him, gravity inexorably pulled him downward, and he began to sink. This clearly demonstrates that the suspension of natural law was intrinsically linked to his unwavering faith in Christ. His faith miraculously sustained him, and the lack thereof caused him to yield to the inescapable physical laws. Even if, in a distant and highly improbable future, science were to one day discover theoretical mechanisms or technologies for levitation or for the manipulation of gravity, this would in no way nullify the miraculous nature of the biblical event. On the contrary, it would merely reveal another of the many laws, principles, or dimensions of reality that God already perfectly masters and transcends. Science, in its essence and glory, teaches us about the how the universe functions and about the laws that govern it, but the who initiated this process, the why it happened, especially in such an extraordinary miracle, and what the divine purpose behind it is, remain firmly within the domain of faith and theology. The miracle of Peter walking on water serves as a powerful and eternal reminder that God's power transcends our limitations, defies our logic, and His intervention can operate in ways that go far beyond our current understanding of gravity and all other physical laws that govern our world. The miracles of the New Testament represent some of the greatest and most profound challenges to scientific understanding, as they frequently appear to suspend or directly manipulate the natural laws we know and rely upon, especially gravity. The ascension of Jesus into heaven, Acts 1 verses 9-11, for instance, is an event that openly defies gravity, requiring an ascending force that is not explainable by any natural means known to current physics. Furthermore, other miracles, such as the raising of the dead, exemplified by Lazarus or Jairus' daughter, defy the irrevocable laws of biology and organic decomposition, while the multiplication of loaves and fishes challenges fundamental principles like the conservation of mass and energy, which are pillars of modern physics. In the specific case of the ascension of Jesus, any attempt at a scientific explanation would be exceedingly complex and, by its very nature, purely speculative. We might, in an exercise of scientific imagination, theorize about a localized and momentary alteration of the gravitational field around Jesus, or perhaps a form of energy yet unknown that completely nullified terrestrial attraction. However, it is crucial to recognize that these are conjectures that extrapolate far beyond any currently available technology or established scientific knowledge, and they cannot be empirically tested. The ascension, for Christian faith, is a singular and irreplicable divine act, a final demonstration of Jesus' power over death and nature, and His return to celestial glory as the Lord of all. It is not a phenomenon that science can replicate, it is a unique intervention by the Creator that points to a reality superior to our own. The multiplication of loaves and fishes, in turn, is a miracle that directly confronts the law of conservation of mass, which states that matter cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. A scientific explanation, no matter how hard it tried, could only argue about the reorganization of atoms or the conversion of energy into mass, but this would require a mastery of physics on a scale and at a speed that are currently impossible and unattainable for human science. Again, science can describe the process, the existence of matter and energy, but faith recognizes the creative and sustaining act of God operating beyond the laws He Himself established for ordinary existence. The crucial point, however, is that even if science can theorize about the manipulation of gravity or other laws in hypothetical science fiction scenarios, God's power is unequivocally behind all miraculous events. Jesus' miracles were not tricks of illusion, fortunate coincidences, or misinterpreted natural phenomena, they were powerful and intentional demonstrations of His divinity, aimed at building the faith of His followers, revealing the kingdom of God, and manifesting his compassion and love for humanity. Science can strive to describe the observable effects of a miracle, the healing, the ascension. But it cannot, by its very nature and methodology, access the primary divine cause that initiated and sustained them. The true harmony between faith and science therefore lies in understanding that both perspectives, though distinct in their methods, languages, and objectives, can coexist and profoundly enrich our worldview. Science investigates how the universe operates, unraveling the laws and mechanisms that God established with his infinite wisdom. Faith, in turn, turns to why it was created, who sustains it at every moment, and what the purpose and meaning of all this are. Science reveals to us the majesty and intrinsic complexity of God's laws, such as gravity, while faith shows us that the lawgiver of these laws is capable of acting in ways that transcend our limited comprehension, even when gravity appears to be defied. Both are valid and complementary paths for the pursuit of truth and knowledge, each contributing to a more complete, profound, and reverent picture of reality and the Creator. At the conclusion of our exploration into the role of gravity and other scientific principles in analyzing biblical miracles, we arrive at a fundamental and humble conclusion. Science, though undeniably useful and illuminating in its ability to unravel the mysteries of the natural world and expand our knowledge of the universe, will never be able to fully and exhaustively comprehend the divine mysteries. Science operates strictly within the parameters of the observable universe, of the laws that we can measure, test, replicate, and mathematically model. It offers us an incredibly detailed and precise map of creation, with its complex interactions, patterns, and phenomena. However, God, as the supreme creator and sustainer of all that exists, intrinsically transcends this map. He is not an entity that can be confined within equations, replicated in laboratory experiments, or explained by physical theories. He is the original and continuous source of all that exists, including the very laws that science strives to understand. Gravity, with its unwavering precision and consistency that organizes everything from subatomic particles to the largest galactic structures, is an eloquent testament to the divine order and intelligence that permeates every aspect of the cosmos. Nevertheless, when a miracle like levitation occurs, or when natural laws are apparently suspended or altered in a biblical context, science may attempt to formulate hypotheses and seek explanations within its own paradigms, but these will always encounter the insurmountable limits of what we can observe, measure, and test. This is because God operates on a level that far transcends our physical and conceptual understanding. The human perspective is intrinsically limited by the dimensions of time, space, and matter. We are finite beings attempting to comprehend an infinite, eternal, and boundless being. We cannot fully understand the Creator using only the tools and laws that He Himself created for the universe's functioning. The idea that gravity, or any other natural law, can be distorted, suspended, or transcended in a miracle does not diminish gravity itself, nor does it make it less real or consistent in its usual operation. On the contrary, it elevates the power and authority of the one who created and sustains it at every moment. It is like a brilliant artist who, having established the rules and limits of a complex work of art, can add a final touch that defies the observer's expectations, but which is, in fact, an integral and intentional part of their inexhaustible creative vision. Science shows us the intricate beauty and logical complexity of the canvas that is the universe. Faith connects us directly with the supreme artist behind all this magnificence, revealing the purpose and love in every cosmic brushstroke. Therefore, scientific inquiry is not only commendable but essential for the progress of human knowledge, as it reveals the intelligence and order present in God's grand creation. However, it will always lead us to a point where the questions become larger than the answers possible within the strictly scientific scope. Miracles serve as powerful, tangible, and unforgettable reminders that reality is far vaster, deeper, and more mysterious than our ability to measure or rationally explain. They point to a God who is eternal, omnipotent, and omniscient, a being who transcends gravity itself and all the laws that govern the cosmos, operating in dimensions and with powers that our finite minds can barely begin to conceive. Science teaches us about the what and the how of the observable universe. Faith leads us to the who and the why, humbly acknowledging that some mysteries will forever remain beyond our complete comprehension, thus revealing God's inscrutable greatness, sovereignty, and love. Miracles and gravity, an eternal, complex, and fascinating dance between what we can rationally comprehend and what remains gloriously unattainable. Science guides us with its probing light, revealing the intricate mechanisms of the universe, but it will never fully unravel the deepest veils of the divine. God, in His majesty and transcendent power, remains beyond our full comprehension, with mysteries that human reason incessantly seeks to unravel, but which, in the end, only faith can truly embrace in its fullness, pointing to a reality that is both natural and supernatural.